Welcome to Talking Insights, where we dive deep into the minds shaping the future of market research and insights. We continue our series of episodes recording during the Esomar Congress in Athens with the support of Question Pro. In this episode, we have a powerful conversation with Kristyna and Vit from NMS Market Research. They won last year's Research Got Talent competition with a project that tackled public perception on sexual violence and its impact on legislation in the Czech Republic. Their research, which supported NGOs in redefining laws, reveals the power of data to drive societal change. Stay tuned to understand how they use research for societal good. Welcome to Talking Insights. I'm your host, Antonio, and today I'm here with Kristyna and Vit. They're from the NMS Market Research in Czech Republic, and they're the winners for Research Got Talent last year, and they did a brilliant paper about rape and how the public perception on rape. Thank you very much for being here.
Happy
Thank
to be
you.
here. Thank you.
So you are the RGT winners from last year?
Yes.
True.
What's the RGT? What's that?
It's a competition called Research Got Talent, and it's for young researchers age under 30, where they compete globally, first nationally and then globally, with their projects that are concerning their work for the society. Meaning that, these are projects that they did for charities or NGOs that were not paid for, they were not for business, to achieve business goals.
And your project was based in your country, in Czech Republic, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it what it was about? It's something related with violence, right?
Yeah, actually, maybe I would just add that what is really crucial with the Research Got Talent is the impact of the projects you compete with. And our project was concerning the topic of sexually motivated crimes or sexual violence per se. And we did a research that basically aimed to help NGOs and experts fighting for the change in legislation. And we wanted to help with public opinion research. We wanted to help them bring the change in legislation, redefining rape from the act requiring physical violence to the act of sexual activity lacking consent. So basically anything without actual consent is considered rape, which definitely covers the rape more precisely.
Right. That's really important these days. I feel people are starting to get aware of all these situations, especially a couple of years ago with the Me Too movement and all those movements that are starting to shine a light on all the things that were happening behind closed doors. But I'm guessing it's not only just the ones behind closed doors. There's all the other problems adjacent to it, right?
Yeah, of course. What we really find out even during the project when we were doing the research, it really was that the public had some sort of ideas about it that were either not based on facts or they were actually rather progressive. It was like the two sort of extremes. And what we were fighting against was the politicians or lawmakers' opinions about how, this is something that doesn't make really sense, that people should be, just concerned with their own sex lives and stuff like that. But the NGO that we cooperated with, was looking abroad into other, usually Western European countries that are already, they have the consent-based definitions of rape. And they were this is really important. It's also a gender problem. And because most of the lawmakers still, at least in our country, in the Czech Republic, are male, then, it was not a priority for them.
Without going too much into politics, Europe and the world these days, especially in this year with all these elections that we had, the world kind of shifted a bit in the way that we were sometimes going for the right movement, and now we're going sometimes to the left parties. Do you think it's getting harder these days to change those policies and change those laws with these new governments and these new ways of thinking? And not only in like Eastern companies or in Eastern countries, but like in all around the world. Like obviously in some countries it might be way harder to change those policies, but some that were like seen as easier to change, now they're probably like a bit adverse to change as well.
I think it's also a question of ideology, like left and right parties. But for example, right now, our government is more on the right side of the spectrum, more conservative, and they still adopted this. It's now changed, and the definition is brand new. I think it's more about how like societies these days all around the world are more polarized, and everything, also thanks to like Twitter or X or whatever it's called these days. It's all the social media. It's always really extreme, the debates, and I don't know, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think like polarized society was quite an interesting thing to look at when doing this research and helping this NGO, because actually what we believe our project did was that somehow showed that we viewed society as very polarized, but actually with this topic it showed that the polarization was maybe more in our minds and more in the mindsets of politicians than there actually was. Because simply said, with the research we showed that actually politicians expect much more aggressive views and much more polarized opinions within the society. And actually we saw with the data we collected that society already actually is ready for the change, and society really believes, and like is not divided into two sections like pro-consent based rape and anti, but majority of society was ready for the change.
That's interesting. Like I feel people think that we need a spark for something, but they're afraid to start the spark because they don't know if the place has enough petrol. But apparently your research says that there was enough petrol. They just needed a spark to start the fire.
Yeah. I think there's nothing easier than, to ask. Like, that's why we feel like public opinion research is really important, because sometimes there are, like feelings about a topic or perceptions, but like, are they based on what people really think, or are they not? So that's basically what we did. We just asked people, hey, what do you think about consent? What do you think about
how do you perceive it?
Yeah, how do you perceive it? Do you think it's something like unnatural and inferior to people, or is it something that like we should normalize and like consider it normal? And it turned out they just like throughout the political spectrum, they mainly thought it's like, yeah, it's no problem.
And actually, maybe one last thing which was really pivotal was that we actually saw that Czech society or Czech public actually already thinks that we have this consent-based rape definition, that people perceive consent as a crucial part of sex, and actually believe that we already have this consent-based definition of rape. So when we came to politicians with that, there was simply no way for them not to adopt it, and it was a great example of how public opinion research is really crucial.
That's interesting. Do you think we can change the same way that you could change this situation with rape? We can change some other matters, for example, the abortions, the way that sometimes the laws are done, because from my understanding, like the popular perception is there, like they already have their opinion about it, but then sometimes like it needs to change something in the laws.
I think it depends on so many like factors. with our project, or with what happened with the definition, it was really important. There were several like stakeholders, like us as a first group, then the NGO that had already been working for a couple of years, getting the public debate and the politicians ready for the hard data that we gave them. And then also like alike thinking lawmakers themselves, because it's them who had to then go and lobby within their colleagues in the parliament and within the government. So it really depends, but I think it doesn't have to be the only case. There are always people, NGOs or different like lobby groups that are pushing for a change in whatever topic you choose. So it's always about like clicking with those people, working together, and I think finding the same way thinking politicians as well. So yeah, even with like elections and stuff, you always have to think about like who are you gonna vote for, what they're standing for, and stuff like that.
And do you think this applied to the market research and the way that people do research? Do you think companies sometimes just kind of take for granted the public opinion and don't really look into it? Mm. Do you think that's going to be a problem from the future?
I think it's bigger of a problem with it, at least in Czech context. It's bigger of a problem within political sphere than within commercial sphere, because market research, I think doesn't take public opinion research for granted. There certainly are companies that could have much better performance if they would use market research data, but I think it's politicians who should be more open to really hearing, to really listen to those who voted, gave them the position and who voted for them.
That's interesting. All right. Thank you very much for the conversation. This was really insightful. I didn't know a bunch of things, and I'm always learning, and I hopefully like our listeners also learned something new today. So thank you very much for this.
Yes, thank you for having us.